Back in 2012, Disney bought LucasFilm to add Star Wars to its ever-growing list of sub-brands. As a result, the likes of Luke Skywalker and Han Solo joined Mickey Mouse, Buzz Lightyear, Iron Man, and Captain America as Disney's flagship characters. But with that purchase came a number of changes to the Star Wars franchise, and that's what this video's all about.
This is where the fun begins.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the little bell. It's the best way of keeping up to date with all of ScreenRant's great new videos.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
One movie per year. The first Star Wars trilogy saw a release in 1997, 1980, and 1983, while the prequel trilogy saw releases in 1999, 2002, and 2005, every 3 years in both cases. Disney, however, have decided that fans deserve a new Star Wars movie every 365 days, and that's a concern, as deciding the release date before knowing what they're making could result in movies being rushed and losing potential quality. It's undoubtedly better to have a smaller amount of high-quality things than a large amount of poor quality things, and that's a rule that applies to most situations, not just movies. So it's concerning Disney doesn't realize this. The new schedule is so crazy the franchise is essentially hemorrhaging writers and directors, with pivotal scenes ending up being written during post-production, which is just insane. So if you're ever questioning the quality of the new movies, it's because the people behind them barely have time to put them together. When you're constantly charging towards a release date, it's hard to think of great ideas and put them into practice. So yeah, Disney, maybe you should slow down a little. Patience is indeed a virtue, and fans aren't going to forget Star Wars exists if you leave things alone for a bit longer. The franchise still has fans who were around when the original was released more than 40 years ago after all.
A master is needed with more experience.
Inexperienced directors. Since Disney has bought Star Wars, they've had a habit of hiring inexperienced indie directors, and it doesn't always work out. That's not to say indie directors never work. George Lucas himself was hardly well known when he directed A New Hope, while Irvin Kershner and Richard Marquand weren't exactly mainstream when they took charge of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi respectively. But Star Wars itself wasn't as huge back then. Then, when the prequel trilogy was released, Lucas himself directed them, but like Star Wars at the time, he was very mainstream and familiar with the concept of blockbusters, and although they weren't exactly great, they at least felt like Star Wars movies and, at the same time, weren't afraid to try new things. These days, Star Wars can often be too big for directors whose specialties are independent films. Colin Trevorrow, for example, was initially brought in to direct the upcoming Episode 9, but was dropped when his movie The Book of Henry flopped and replaced with the more experienced J.J. Abrams. When Disney hired Chris Miller and Phil Lord of 21 Jump Street fame for the Han Solo movie, they just ended up replacing them with Ron Howard. That being said, Gareth Edwards and Rian Johnson weren't mainstream directors when they took on Rogue One and The Last Jedi, and they both turned out okay. Straying from accepted canon. Many Star Wars fans who need their fix in the years between movies love to keep themselves occupied with other forms of Star Wars media, which are generally considered to be part of what is known as the Star Wars extended universe. Comic books, video games, and television shows have all expanded upon the stories in the movies, and fans have come to know the characters in the manner they've developed in other such media. With that in mind, it's been a little perturbing for some fans to discover that Disney's Star Wars movies have strayed from what they regard as accepted canon in the newest installments, by completely ignoring the extended universe. Some examples of that include the fact that, in the extended universe, Princess Leia rises to the rank of fully fledged Jedi Knight, so for her to have never developed her Force powers in the new movies is a little strange. Also in the extended universe, Luke Skywalker becomes a celebrated Jedi Master who successfully trains a new generation of Jedi Knights, rather than becoming the bitter recluse he is in the new movies. Other characters whose development in this extended universe have been ignored include Han Solo, C-3PO, and Boba Fett, all of which is a real shame for fans who spent time indulging in these stories.
Catch a deep breath. It'll be the last fresh air you'll get for a while.
Fresh air is overrated.
Messing with alternate media. There's more to Star Wars than movies, and when Disney purchased the franchise, they gained the rights to do whatever they wanted with all of it: television shows, video games, and comic books. And they've not been shy when it comes to messing with those platforms either, as they've made changes to all of them. Disney essentially pressed reset on the television front, truncating the Clone Wars, limiting its 6th season to Netflix, and canceling planned projects like Seth Green's comedy sketch show Detours. As for the video games, Disney have flat out shut down LucasArts, which at one point was the company considered to be the pinnacle of game development, having produced the likes of Maniac Mansion, The Secret of Monkey Island, and Grim Fandango, in addition to countless Star Wars titles. Now it's nothing but a name, with its products licensed out to other publishers, so Disney doesn't have to invest millions into new games. The comics have also undergone major changes. Dark Horse were responsible for starting the extended universe and making the comic side of it popular, but Disney pulled the license from them and gave it to Marvel, who of course they own. In all fairness, that was something of a homecoming, as Marvel was the first company to publish Star Wars stories back in 1977 to coincide with A New Hope. Digital editions. In addition to the seemingly never-ending merchandise it produced and the popular extended universe, the Star Wars franchise has always been famous for constantly re-releasing movies on various forms of home media, whether that was VHS and Laserdisc back in the day, or DVD and Blu-ray in more modern times. Most of these releases saw nothing more than different packaging, while some had assorted special features, which back in the 80s and 90s at least simply consisted of short interviews with George Lucas that would introduce each of the original films. This marketing effort essentially made Star Wars the first, and for a while at least, the only series for consumers to purchase on multiple occasions across multiple years. Disney has since jumped on the bandwagon in similar but more modern fashion, releasing digital versions of all 6 movies, complete with new bonus features. Beyond simply maintaining tradition, the new re-releases are noteworthy for something Disney didn't do, which was continue to tweak the actual content of the movies, a Pandora's box George Lucas himself opened with the 1997 special editions of the original trilogy. Even the Blu-ray release in 2011 saw a plethora of edits, albeit minor ones, from the addition of new background elements to the slight re-editing of certain scenes.
There is no Rogue One.
Well, there is now.
Anthology movies. One of the biggest announcements by Disney since the company obtained the rights to Star Wars was, perhaps even more incredible than the initial announcement of Episode 7. The House of Mouse announced that they were to produce an additional set of 3 films, which would be loosely referred to as the Star Wars Anthologies. 3 movies that would be pretty much standalone in nature and which would cover a number of different unexplored aspects of the Star Wars galaxy, beyond the previously strict scope and adventures of the Skywalker family. In addition to the monumental excitement the announcement created, it was also an announcement that was very telling of Disney's mindset. Not only would there be only 2 years between standard episodes rather than the previous 3, but the years in between would be filled with brand new content to keep fans interested and, of course, to keep the all-important merchandising afloat. 2016's Rogue One, A Star Wars Story was the first of these spin-offs and depicted the Rebels' stealing of the Death Star plans right before Episode 4, A New Hope. 2018's Solo, A Star Wars Story followed a young Han Solo, and another movie should follow in 2020, which is believed to revolve around the bounty hunter Boba Fett, something that some fans are particularly excited about.
They've somehow created a hyper lightspeed weapon built within the planet itself.
It's another Death Star.
Afraid to take chances. By the very nature of its space opera concept, the original Star Wars movies were highly original and therefore undoubtedly a risk on the part of George Lucas and everyone else who played a part in getting it onto the big screen. However, since Disney took over, it's becoming very obvious that they're afraid to take any chances with the movies. They're kind of predictable and nothing new is really going on in them. A prime example was The Force Awakens, which essentially mirrored every single character and plot point from the original trilogy. However, what's even more bizarre is that just about every major new character seems to geek out over the old ones. For instance, Kylo Ren worships Darth Vader, and both Poe and Rey know all about the adventures of Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. It's fairly obvious that the writers wanted to make relatable characters and ended up just writing them as Star Wars fans. Even the directors of the new movies are aware of this. Rogue One director Gareth Edwards has spoken multiple times about the balance between writing an original story and keeping to the Star Wars tone, for example. But with Rogue One, Disney's definition of an original story, taking place quite literally a few days before A New Hope, it's plain to see that they're more concerned with playing it safe.
It occurred to me one day that the perfect person to take over the company was Kathy.
No single person in charge. While he didn't direct 2 of the 3 movies in the original trilogy, George Lucas did oversee the writing and production of all of them, which makes sense. But the new Star Wars movies don't have that one writing overlord. Kathleen Kennedy, the president of LucasFilms, even admitted that she and LucasFilm hadn't mapped out the direction of the new trilogy and, for the most part, leave it up to each director to just figure it out. Disney, however, are also trying something that's never previously been attempted in Star Wars' 38-year history: unified storytelling. storytelling. The Lucasfilm Story Group have been created as an advisory body that consists of several different individuals, ranging from longtime keepers of the most obscure Star Wars continuity to the company's brand new management team. Its sole purpose is to assist whatever writer, editor, or director is toiling away on a new chapter of the Star Wars mythos, whatever form of media it's on, which is supposed to ensure that everything is interconnected, fully canon, and hopefully cognate. As Lucasfilm itself has previously pointed out, every single release potentially marks a new fan's entry into the teeming universe that is Star Wars, and the Story Group wants to ensure that each experience is immersive, meaningful, welcoming, and easy to grasp as far as its place in Star Wars lore is concerned.
I expect to be well paid. I'm in it for the money.
You needn't worry about your reward.
Commercial success. In general, Disney has ramped up the commercial success of Star Wars as a franchise, but nothing epitomizes that more than the existence of Force Friday. The Star Wars franchise has raked in very close to $40 billion in the period from the first movie's release in 1977 to Disney's purchasing of Lucasfilm in 2012, at least $975 million of which came from merchandising, action figures, Lego sets, bed sheets, and so on. What's even more staggering is just how much more money the brand has made under Disney's control. Just 3 years after the deal, before the first Disney Star Wars movie was even released, the company had made back all $4 billion of its investment, and it has since made billions more. This has been accomplished by expanding the range of merchandising available. Any major store you visit will have at least a few Star Wars items in nearly every single department, and much more significantly, Disney rewrote the marketing book in the build-up to Episode 7. The epitome of this was seen on the 4th of September in 2015, which was known as Force Friday, when the first Force Awakens related merchandise went on sale. The day essentially functioned as a Star Wars only Black Friday, and suffice to say, Hollywood marketing will never be the same again.
Having this attraction will allow guests to really immerse themselves and feel as if they are truly visiting Star Wars.
Star Wars Land. There have been Star Wars themed attractions in numerous Disney theme parks around the world for years. The motion simulator Star Tours originally opened at Disneyland way back in 1987, for example, and subsequently opened at Tokyo Disneyland, Disney's Hollywood Studios in Orlando, and Disneyland Paris. But there's more than enough in the Star Wars universe to create an entire theme park out of it, let alone a handful of attractions. And while George Lucas could never come to an agreement with Disney Parks and Resorts management, that's all irrelevant now, as Disney can do whatever they want with the franchise after purchasing it. As a result, there are fully fledged Star Wars lands in development that will open in 2019 in both Disneyland in Anaheim and Hollywood Studios in Orlando. How amazing is that? They will be called Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and will be themed around a brand new, never before seen planet in Star Wars lore. Guests will be able to hop aboard the Millennium Falcon and interact with an assortment of popular characters once they open. Each land will encompass 14 acres and, rather excitingly, the one in Orlando will be accompanied by a Star Wars hotel, which will be shaped like a starship and provide guests with a 100% immersive experience, although there is no confirmed opening date for that just yet.
And I think people are going to be so amazed. I think it's going to be incredible.
And that is the end of our video. Did you enjoy it? How else has Star Wars changed since Disney bought the rights to it? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to ScreenRant for more great videos like this one. Thanks for watching.